Wow, beautiful song by beautiful people, powered by Action Aid. Thank you so much. Even if you didn't get anything at all, one line there that really stood out for me is sex for grades must stop. Sex for work must stop. Sex for anything at all must stop as well. So today the conversation is going to be all around sexual harassment and protection for workers, even as they are in their office spaces. Are you experiencing something in relation to sexual harassment in your workplace? Today's show is for you. And we're going to be opening the phone lines towards the end of the show for you to call in and share what your experience is. You could also send in your comments and speak your mind around sexual harassment in the workplace. All right. So as usual, I always want to acknowledge the people who make it possible for us to have this show today. Yeah, Chanashito. Chanashito is Ghana's #1 pepper sauce, and if you've not tried it, I keep saying it. Those who have tried it keep testifying of the goodness of Chanashito. The phone number is right now at the base of your screen. I need you to make a call to them and ask for your bulk purchases, all right? Ask for them. And it's also another avenue to earn some more money. You know, women are beginning to consider extra income streams, and if you are someone who is selling Chanashito, believe you me, the goods will just be flying just like that. And Liz's tomato mix also makes our jollof rice, our pepper soup, our nkatenkwan, our abenkwan, and every other meal it is you want to prepare with tomato. Please look for Liz's tomato mix from your vendor. And all those other ones you've been using, just push them to the curb because the latest is in town, and that's Liz's tomato mix. Okay, you could also call them by the number right now at the base of your screen. And as usual, I am really clothed and made so beautiful by Afariwa Styles. Afariwa, thank you so much for this dress. I'm loving the sleeve, I'm loving the color. It looks good on me. It's so African, it's so beautiful. And if you want to look like this, or even better, I need you to call Afariwa Styles or visit her physically at Osu or at her Teshi Nungwa showroom. It's not far away at all. If you just get to the Rasta Road and you get to the container bus stop, she'll be located right there and you just walk in. I keep saying that what I like about Afariwa Styles is the fact that she's into contemporary ladies and gents outfits that are already made. So no hassle at all. You know, when you have to keep calling your seamstress or your fashion designer or dressmaker and they keep dodging your calls, or they turn off their phones and do all those irritating things that makes you grin so hard, Afariwa says, kiss it all goodbye. Just walk in, fit in, and if it works for you, that's it. However, if you've got your fabric and you want to sew, no problem. They'll also do that for you. Awo's Hair took care of my hair, and you can locate her on Instagram and Facebook at Awo's Hair. My name is Eunice Tony, and I'll be linking you right now to the 60 Seconds Update, where we tell you about what's happening with women here in Ghana and across the world. To stay tuned.
The National Health Insurance Authority, NHIA, has joined forces with the Rebecca Foundation to improve childhood cancer treatment in Ghana. This was concluded on September 27, 2021. As part of this initiative, the First Lady, Rebecca Ekufuado, made a commitment to build a hostel at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital where children undergoing cancer treatment can stay with their families who abandon treatment due to the cost of transport and other expenses. The 54-bed hospital, however, was commissioned last week. The National Health Insurance Authority, after a long campaign, will now absorb the cost of treatment for childhood cancers. The announcement was made today by the First Lady, Rebecca Ekufuado, at the launch of NHI's Week in Accra. A former transport minister in the John Mahama administration, Jifat Ativo, has passed on. According to family sources, she died in the early hours of Tuesday, November 16th, after a short illness. Madame Ativo is said to have been visiting the hospital for treatment for a period before her demise. She served as a transport minister between February 2013 and resigned in December 2015. The 65-year-old was a leading member of the NDC in the Volta region, where she contested the regional chairperson position but lost to incumbent John Kujo Japon in 2018.
And you're welcome back to eTVGhana's African Women's Voices show with me, Eunice Tony. Well, WCW, as usual, I always would ask you if you've wished that person, well, if you're crushing on the person. It's still not late, as I always say. But today, we're able to identify one WCW, and I'd like to share that person with you. She's no other person than Dr. Irajua Nuno. We want to wish her a happy birthday, and she's the WCW for today. All right, so we'll kick-start the conversation already. My guests are already seated here and poised to have the conversation with us. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be introducing you, first of all, to my immediate left. I've got Ohiniwa Brown. Ohiniwa Brown is the Communications and PR Manager of Action Aid Ghana. You're welcome, Ohiniwa.
Thank you, Eunice.
Nice one. And next to Ohiniwa is Juliet Mbro, Industrial Relations Officer, Railway Workers Union, Trade Union Congress. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, my dear.
All right, so people, I talked earlier about the fact that we're going to be discussing, the protection of workers within their working space, especially when it comes to sexual harassment. So we brought somebody from Action Aid, and we brought a worker as well, because we want to be able to experience, both sides. And I would like to let you know who Action Aid is, or set a reminder, because I know a lot of you already know who Action Aid is. But it's good to know, again, that the International Labour Organization, the ILO, is a tripartite UN agency established to bring together governments, employers and workers of 187 member states to set labour standards, develop policies and devise programs promoting decent work for all women and men. So as we go on, you understand how Action Aid plays a role here now. Okay, so at its 108th session in Geneva in 2019, the ILO adopted the Violence and Harassment Convention 190. The ILO C190 is a comprehensive international regulation which addresses the full range of issues relating to gender-based violence in the world of work. The convention recognizes that violence and harassment in the world of work can constitute human rights violations as well as a threat to equal opportunities. Now, Action Aid. In 2018, Action Aid Ghana released a report titled Falling Through the Cracks, Tackling the Justice Deficit for Women Survivors in Ghana, which documented some harrowing stories of abuse faced by women workers, particularly those in the informal sector. These women experience violence 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and they are the least heard and least visible. Key recommendations outlined in this report include a call on government to ratify and adopt the ILO C189, which deals with fair treatment for domestic workers, and C190, which deals with violent rights of everyone to a world of work free from violence and harassment, including gender-based violence and harassment. So you see, they all work together. Action Aid is seeing to it that the ratification goes through, and all of us need to join. It's not going to be only Action Aid. Action Aid will be needing us all to join this conversation. And there is a hashtag. Could you tell us what the hashtag is?
Hashtag ratify ILO C190.
Precisely. So whatever you say today, please add the hashtag to it. All right?
Yeah.
Great. So, like I mentioned earlier, we are going to be opening the phone lines towards the end of the show for you to share your comments. If you are not able to call in, please send it to us on our Facebook page, because we are streaming live right now on our Facebook page at e.tvghana. Okay, so, Ohiniwa, I know Action Aid has done a lot of research around this conversation. This is not the first time. But just because we need people to really follow through this conversation, I'd like to find out that based on your research and that of the Trade Union Congress, what are the general issues that you've uncovered within the workforce? Let's start from there.
Okay, thank you so much, Eunice, once again for giving your platform to us to have a conversation on ratification of the ILO Convention. For us at ActionAid, over the period, we've been working in Ghana for the last over 30 years now. And we've basically, we are an organization that stands with the marginalized in society. We stand with people who live in poverty and exclusion. Our target is to ensure that we run advocacies, system changes that are targeted at making life better for these individuals. And so throughout our advocacy and throughout our research, one of the things that we do, and based on our mission priority 2, one of the things that we look at is to actually address the root causes of violence, root causes of poverty, unpaid care work, and also promote decent work. You agree with me that in as much as we find ourselves in a system where coming by a job is difficult, it does not allow people to take away the dignity of individuals they employ. And so it is important that people promote decent work, their decent work agenda. You've read about the International Labour Organization, and so I'm not going to bore you with that. Now, when it comes to our conversation within the communities where we operate, so we operate in the northern part, Upper East, Upper West, Bono, Volta, Oti, and of course Accra. In all the areas that we've worked in our conversation with the women that we deal with, and I just want to mention that our primary target are women and girls, because awesome. For us, we believe that these are people who most of the time within our communities are vulnerable, based on patriarchy system, based on social norms, cultural practices. It affects these women and girls in so many ways that we seem not to talk about them within our community. So we try as much as possible to target our programs and projects towards women and girls especially, not excluding the men.
Okay.
So please, men, don't take it in the wrong way. But in our conversations, we realize that especially if you look at the informal sector, like I mentioned, it's difficult to come by a job within the formal sector. And so they play a key role. I mean, they're part of a chunk population when it comes to the workforce. They add to our national workforce. However, if you look at, based on the conversations we had with them, you realize that these women go through abuses. They go through sexual harassment, emotional harassment. So for those, for instance, and I'm going to cite a typical example, for those who work in the, let's say, a pub, for instance, a customer comes in and wouldn't even check whether just tap you, either on the waist, either
even on the back side.
On the back side,
yeah, I've
right?
seen that.
They just touch you because they think that you are serving them, you're providing a service. And so because of that, they have access to your body. And these are the things that we've uncovered dealing with these women within the communities that we work in. And it's very difficult handling some of these issues. And some of them would even not be able to talk about it for fear of losing their jobs, for fear of being victimized by their bosses. Some of them will not even sack you, but the way they would treat you, you would even want to look for your way out of the organization. And so these are the things that we've uncovered, and that is why we are here, pushing for the ratification of the ILO Convention to ensure that workers are protected. So to speak, yeah.
All right, so I'm coming to you at TUC, Juliet. Could you tell us, the cases that have been uncovered as far as TUC's, interested or involved in cases of sexual harassment? What have you uncovered?
Right. First of all, let me say a very good evening to our listeners who are watching us, and also thanks to you and your team, as well as to Madam Margaret Brew and Auntie Anne for giving me the opportunity to be part of this discussion. And I also want to commend you for using your platform to champion women cause as far as women empowerment is concerned. Yeah, coming back to our discussion, when it comes to violence and sexual harassment, there are a range of practices and behaviors that needs not to be encouraged in our organization or our society, because the negative impact is so huge on the victims. Sometimes when workers go through violence and sexual harassment, it affects them emotionally, physically, as well as their economic status. Sometimes when they go through this violence at work, they don't have the confidence to work effectively to enhance productivity. So as workers' representative, our role or our responsibility is to champion the cause that Action Aid have been doing by pushing hard for the government to ratify the ILO convention so that all workers will be protected. Because when it comes to the ILO convention 190, it gives a broader scope. It has a broader scope. It comes with a lot of definitions as compared to the kind of policies on violence and sexual harassment that we have within our Labor Act. When it comes to the Labor Act, the kind of clauses within it, it doesn't really give clear definition as compared to the ILO Convention 190. So trade unions are happy that the International Labour Organization has been able to adopt this kind of convention. And when it comes to the TUC, we have a special department known as the Gender and Child Protection Department, and their core mandate is to champion women's cause as far as women empowerment is concerned. And they also address issues on violence and harassment at the workplace. A typical example is that in the month of May this year, the Gender Department, in collaboration with Action Aid Ghana, organized 3-day workshop for some gender coordinators within the affiliate unions and other workers to train them on this particular convention. And honestly speaking, at the end of the program, most of these gender coordinators that were trained have also taken it upon themselves, going to the grassroots, educating workers, members on violence and sexual harassment. You agree with me that when it comes to violence and sexual harassment, domestic workers are really affected, and trade unions are much concerned. Sometimes when these workers are employed, their employers sleep with them, they even impregnate them, they don't even have the confidence to work effectively. Sometimes they even sack them out of their house. They don't even gotten them pregnant. Yes, sometimes too, they don't even give the money that these domestic workers have worked for to them, and at the end of the day, these victims find themselves wanting. So these are some of the issues that trade unions have also been advocating for, so that we can compel the Ghana government to ratify and domesticate this Convention 190, so that we can have a violence-free in our world of work.
Wow. We all look forward to it, having violence-free, world of work. All right, to be going for another commercial break. When we return, I'd like to be asking our lady from Action Aid exactly what the reports they did around falling through the cracks. What did they uncover from there? I'm sure you want to know that as well. So do not go away. Do stick and stay. You're welcome back to eTVGhana's African Women's Voices show. Before we went on the commercial break, I said I was going to be asking Ohiniwa Brown what they uncovered from the reports that they put together. However, as usual, I always acknowledge the presence of those of you who are watching us on Facebook. I acknowledge you. Thank you all so much for tuning in on your phones, on your TV sets, or whatever platform it is that you use to be able to watch us. I see you, Mami Mens. You said yourself and Naomi Kwe, you are watching live from Kaswa. Thank you so much. Those of you who are also watching us from outside of Ghana, I see you from the United Kingdom. You're sending your wave. Thank you. From the United States of America, you're sending your wave. From the UAE, thank you so much. From I see you from Australia. Thank you. From China, from Japan. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And then coming down to Africa, I see you also saying that you're tuned in from Nigeria, Abuja. I see from Oka. I see from Anambra State, from Enugu, from Lokoja, from Jos, from Zamfara, from Kwara. Another person says from Ilorin. Okay, I see you all. Oshobo, I see you as well. You're all tuned in and you're watching from across Nigeria. We seem to have a lot of people who watch us from there. Thank you for always watching us, okay? Now we are moving back to other parts of Africa. I see you from Cairo. I see you from Ouagadougou. I see you from Togo, from Dakar, from Yaoundé. I see you all sending in your waves. Thank you so much. Here in Ghana, I see from Accra, you're sending in your wave. I see Maxwell from, is that Trede, Trede, or Trede? I hope I pronounced it well. But Anab Maxwell, I see you. Okay, thank you so much. From Salt Pond, from Zabzugu, from Tamale, from Lubotota, from Alavanyo, from Axim. I see you all sending in your waves. So many of you. I acknowledge your presence. Okay, thank you for tuning in to ETV Ghana's African Women's Voices show. So the conversation continues right now. Ohinewa, please tell us exactly what you uncovered from your reports.
You have a lot of people watching you.
Yeah.
That's a good one. But falling through the cracks, tackling the justice deficit for women survivors in Ghana, basically is a report that looked at the accounts of women survivors. So this was actually a report, it's a multi-country report that was conducted in different countries, but for the sake of this conversation, I'm going to focus on the Ghana one. So we looked at the women who are more like survivors of sexual harassment and violence, and how these women, for some of them, go through violence 24 hours a day, 265 days in a year. Different forms of violence. It's emotional abuse, physical violence, and you talk about the fact that there are some of the women who work within the domestic space because they're working for someone in the home, because somebody has given them employment in their homes. They think that they are punching bags. And I'm going to ask people who have domestic workers in their home, how do you treat these people? Is it because you are feeding them? Is it because you are giving them some level of livelihood? So you think that these are people that you can treat anyhow. And so some of them go through some physical abuses. They're beaten all over.
Yeah, I really agree with what you're saying, not to cut you, but I have heard from a lot of women that when you treat these people really nice and make them feel comfortable in your home, before you know it, they take over.
No, but
so just to let them know where they belong, they remind them that, look, you're the domestic help here, and this is where you belong. Some of them even go as far as taking a picture of you when you come into their homes with your one bag and the way you're looking, because they want to remind you after 1 year or 2 years, when you begin to look nice, for them to tell you, this is your picture when you came to my house. You see how you were looking? I have improved your life, so you owe me a lot. And the kind of confidence with which they say what they say, you can tell that a lot of women have had meetings over this, so
it cuts across.
No,
but Eunice, I agree with you. You know, it's okay to remind people how you've supported their lives, but that doesn't mean you should take away their dignity. And every one of us, if you find yourself in a privileged position, you need to also treat people nicely. You can exert authority without necessarily physically abusing people. And I mean, physical abuse is a crime. Let's not joke with it. It's against human rights. And so it is important that people treat those who they live with in a better way. I mean, physically abuse them, punching them is not part of the work. They are there to do your work. No, so back to the report. So we realized that these people, so especially for those who find themselves in these situations, they're even unable to talk about it. Because if I talk about it, the next minute I am sent packing. Where do I go? You need to go seek refuge in either your community, and these are communities I've talked about, social, cultural norms that do not allow women to even enjoy their fundamental human rights, you know. So they go back to the communities and they still, so some of them will still prefer keeping quiet, staying, even through the abuse. And so these are some of the things we uncovered. And in as much as there's a justice system, there's a way that processes that people could go through to assess justice. It is not available to these people because, one, you know how legal processes are even cumbersome in this country. It's not even about aside it being cumbersome, it is difficult to even assess it because people feel that they're dealing with issues that are of importance. How much more issues of domestic abuse? They will not even, you will not even get any support, any legal support for that. And so we realized that even though there are access to those kind of justice system for these people is difficult. They are unable to assess it because of where they find themselves. And you also bear with me that some of them, the issues don't even come out. So for instance, I recall recently the Chief Justice was telling traditional leaders not to deal with issues of abuse in their palace. So within some of the communities, issues of abuse are dealt with either in the homes or in the palace. How can justice be served if that is the processes we go through? Because at the end of the day, somebody would say, like you said, some of them would not even want to come out to talk about it. So you say, are you going to paint our dirty linen out there? And that is what a lot of people would want to look at. And so we realized that it is important that in as much as we have some legal provisions that support these people, in terms of access, we did not have. So that is why and these people fall through the cracks. So the cracks are the gaps within the system, the gaps within the justice system, and how these people are unable to protect themselves because of where they find themselves, because they are informal workers and they find themselves in a vulnerable situation. They are unable to support themselves or protect themselves. So those are some of the things we unraveled in the report.
Great. And I'm coming to you, TUC. In terms of advocacies, you know, what advocacies has the TUC been pushing for over the years, especially when it comes to sexual harassment?
Yeah, you know, as said earlier on, TUC stands to protect the interests of workers, and they also stand to protect workers from violence and harassment. So sometimes when workers go through violence and harassment, we have specific workplace policies put in place to address this kind of issues. Sometimes when we receive complaints from victims, we do a follow-up by visiting the organization to sit down with management and then use the policies or the clauses within the collective agreement to address the issue. And sometimes in the course of addressing the issue, when the victims get intimidated, she has some fear, the victim can choose to say, okay, it's enough, let it go. I would want to quit my job. So all the time you find out that women are moving from one job to another job, which is something that we need not to encourage in the world of work and the entire nation as a whole.
Okay. So before we go for another commercial break, because, you know, we've got to pay our bills, I need Action Aid to say one thing to me. What really is Ghana's story when it comes to violence and harassment in the workplace? Because a lot of times people feel this is foreign. I mean, it doesn't really happen in Africa. No, we don't do those kind of things here in Ghana at all. It's only, you know, those whites or foreigners, they are the ones who do this. What is our story here in Ghana?
So I think I have elaborated on a couple of them, but I think that, so maybe we've touched on the domestic part. Let's go to the formal part, where the key issues are. So you are a graduate looking for a job. Sometimes you stay 5 years in the house without access to employment, any meaningful employment, right? Eventually you get through the door and someone says, I need to sleep with you before I give you that job. That is the situation in the country. So I mean, in the video you saw no sex for jobs.
Yes,
right?
I did.
Sex for, I mean that is basically abuse of someone's, if I'm qualified for the job, give me the job. Why must I really give my body to you before I get the job that you feel that I'm qualified for? So that's what we're asking. That's what we're talking about. If you also go to even before the person, after the person has gotten the job, you realize that you go to a lot of the organizations in this country, people who find themselves in higher position, unfortunately, is power play. You find a lot of men in the higher positions and the women in the lower positions. And all these things is no fault of anyone. If you go back to my grandmother's generation, you realize that the patriarchy system, the system where a family will choose to educate a man over a woman, that is the rippling effect of what we're saying. Because at the end of the day, the man will be educated, the woman is asked to stay in the house to be doing the domestic work, right? So the man gets to rise faster, goes to the workplace, And then if you are fortunate enough to have someone to support you as a woman, you start climbing the ladder through. And so it is going to happen. Maybe from my generation to my kids, that is where the trend will change. And you realize that the trend is changing because women are taking over key positions even within government as well as within the workforce. So the narrative might change at some point. But for now, people, because of the power relations, because men find themselves in a lot of positions, they abuse of power. And I'm not saying all men, let's not get me wrong. Some men, or most men, abuse the power that they have. And you realize that a lot of organizations in this country don't even have share policies. They don't have sexual harassment policies. And so if you find yourself in such a situation, there is no policy within the organization that even protects you as a woman or protects you as a man within the workforce. Because when it comes to issues of violence and abuse, it is not just a woman. It is the men also go through it, because there are some women who also find themselves in some position who also abuse the power that they have. So, but then that is a bit minimal, because a lot of the time you hardly find the women doing that. And so that is the situation, and that is where we find ourselves. And we are just saying that we need to move from there. We need to look for a way to allow people who are qualified to enjoy their fundamental human rights, to be able to work without necessarily having to lose their dignity, basically to have jobs. And you realize that these are people who find themselves in the workplace, and they are losing. They have to. You just have to do it. You know, you have to do it because you need the job. But that is not what we need to do. Decent work is what is the reason why the ILO has been established, to ensure that governments who are part of the system, who are part of the organization, promote the decent work agenda and ensure that every single person, human rights and fundamental rights are protected.
Amazing. You know, the reason why I asked this question is because when we had the Sex for Grade video that came out, some people came out to say, well, it's 1 in a million. So stop making so much noise as if it's happening. And then you hear people saying, oh, we've got harassment issues in the creative industry, in the banking industry, in the event industry. Like, people keep making allegations. And then when it's like, we want to hear you point, mention the names, where exactly did they happen to you? Everybody goes dumb.
Yeah,
so that's why I asked, what really is the story here in Ghana? Because we are not telling the story enough. People should be ready to come out to speak about what they are going through, okay, and not fear what family is going to say, oh, don't drag us into the mud and all of that. So I need you to pick up your phone and call us and share your story. Let me go for this commercial break. When we return, I open the phone lines. Welcome back to eTVGhana's African Women's Voices show with me, Eunice Tony. So before we went on the break, I said I needed you to call us and share your story around sexual harassment. If you've not experienced something and you experience, and some other person experienced and you want to share to educate other people, please feel free to also share that with us. You could also leave comments on our Facebook page. Now I'm calling the numbers. Could we have the numbers on the screen, please, so that people call through? Okay, so remember to lower your TV set to the volume, okay, when you call in, all right? So the number is 0555 65 7278. Thank you very much. So I'm going over to our Facebook page to see if I'm going to get any questions from there. And I see one. Yvonne Tokolo. It says, educative topic being discussed. I love the contribution of the guest. I want to find out if the report Action Aid gathered was focused on only the informal sector.
Yes, so falling through the cracks, yes, was focused on those in the informal sector. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so
and I mean, we can make the reports available. It's on our website, so you can visit Ghana@actionaid.org, and you will be able to have access to all the reports that we've worked on so far. And the Falling Through the Cracks report is on there, so anyone can just visit our website, and then you'll have access to that.
Okay, great. I'm coming back to you, TUC, because you guys deal with the workers much more. Okay, Action Aid is there to help you, yeah, but you actually see the issues, and I'd like to find out how you monitor. How do you monitor, the workplace for these people you are protecting? What mechanisms are in place to monitor?
As said earlier on, at our workplaces, we have workplace policies that seeks to address violence and sexual harassment. So all the time, we make sure that these workplace policies protect each and every worker at their workplace. And sometimes when we receive complaint from these victims, we use these policies to protect them. And again, we normally go to the organizations that this kind of sexual harassment occurred, and we meet with management. Sometimes we negotiate for flexible working hours for these victims. We also negotiate for with management so that they don't dismiss these victims at the workplace. So these are some of the things.
So how often do you do this visit? Is it periodic, like 1 year?
It depends. We normally do it. It depends.
Okay.
It depends
Please
on the
hold your
report
thought.
that we
I hear we
receive.
have a caller. Hello, caller.
I like the program that we are doing.
All right, thank you. Please, what's your name and where are you calling us from?
I'm calling from Tamale.
Okay, from Tamale. And your name is?
Yeah. I'm called Saki.
Taki.
Yeah.
Okay. Taki, do you want to make a contribution?
Yeah. Because the program, no, I hear some things there. In Ghana, here there's a lot of problems.
Okay.
About getting some people finish the school and they don't get the work.
Okay.
And we have that people here, and some people too, they'll be there, and then some man will be high, maybe a big person like this, and the woman going to accept a man before he get the work. That is happening in Ghana here.
Okay. So you agree that it's happening here in Ghana?
So I like that proverb.
Okay. Thank you very much, Taki, for sharing, okay? We appreciate your call.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, bye. So Taki, he agrees that it's really happening here in Ghana, even though we're not sharing the stories, well enough. So you know what, the reason why I'm having to really, point to TUC is because you guys are supposed to be the ones who really speak for us in these cases. So, I mean, you need to look at your visits, and see how you can make it much more consistent. And, short visits on, when they're not expecting you, you just show up to see how they are treating the worker, or even sometimes we look at beyond the policies. Are there hidden cameras in some of these places? Is it possible? Maybe I'm thinking too movie-like.
You are.
I'm thinking.
Because that's illegal.
That's illegal, right?
Yeah.
So we can't have hidden cameras there. Okay, I get it now.
And one thing is that sometimes these victims don't have the confidence to also report to union representatives to do a follow-up for them. So we are calling on them when they are going through violence and sexual harassment, they should have the confidence to report to union representatives so that they will also give them the necessary support that they need.
Thank you very much.
But with my journalistic instinct, I'm tempted to say that sometimes they can actually get people insiders, right? So I wouldn't mind having someone pose as a worker, getting there, basically to observe, how these people are treated, what kind of experiences do they go through. When I was working as a journalist, I wanted to work on a story on prostitution, right? You had to go like such, basically to get the stories that you're looking for. And so I think sometimes maybe we can look at those dimensions, how people can pose as workers just to get the insider information. Because it's difficult for people to come out. And because once you come out, you lose your job.
True. So just for us to round up the conversation, because interestingly it's almost 9 o'clock, I'd like to know what the Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations, what is their response to all of what we're doing Action 8, please. Can you respond to that?
Okay, so throughout the advocacy for the ratification of the ILO Convention 190, we have been engaging stakeholders, and stakeholders, of course, TUC and other organizations are part of the advocacy for government to ratify. We have sent some correspondence. We have been engaging them. For us, what we are looking at is to ensure that government adopts it, and that government consents, formally agrees and consent to the ILO Convention 190. And so that is what we haven't seen that green light.
Okay.
We haven't seen, I mean, we'll just be happy if we hear that government has agreed to formally consent to ILO Convention 190, because the government of Ghana is part of the International Labour Organization, and they have responsibilities. And so we are just pushing, not pushing in the bad way, but calling on them to ensure that as soon as possible this is done, because all of us need to protect our workers. And once this is ratified, we would also be having policies, pushing for policies within the workspace so that people are protected well enough. And I also want to say that the media plays a role. When it comes to advocacy, you should have the media playing a role, sending the right signals, sensitizing the people to ensure that people understand the issues, people join the cause. Because for me, if a convention is ratified, it protects me, it protects you, it protects my sister who is working in a different organization. So I'll plead with you. This shouldn't be the end. 25th starts.
It definitely is not the end.
15 days of activism, and that means that we need to be forceful. We need to push for policies and legislations that support the development of women and girls.
Okay.
And in addition to what my sister said, the 1992 Constitution of Ghana protects workers from violence and those kind of harassment that they go through. And again, Ghana is a signatory to the UN Convention on Elimination of all forms of discrimination against women. So we are pleading with Ghana government to help ratify this convention 190 and domesticate it so that we can have it made clear to have violence free in our world of work.
Okay, thank you. And the hashtag is, once again?
Ratify ILO C190.
Great. So it's been an interesting time with you ladies, and with you also who has been watching us. The repeat broadcast will be brought to you on Saturday at 12 noon. All right, so until we meet again, do enjoy the rest of our interesting lineup for you. Bye-bye.